So I've been wanting to test out Mage Garrison in different scenarios for war, such as swarms and rallies, and luckily enough, I managed to get swarmed for over an hour straight by a whale on WB side to do just that. So thank you very much to him, even though it was not planned. I was just sitting off territory on purpose, and he just started swarming me, and then it became a very long session of swarming, as you can see here. So my goal here is really to test out what is the best Mage Garrison now that we have the new Gromara as well as Yun Ming, who are both insanely powerful heroes. But I did find out that Tohar is still very much in the running. So I'm going to go over all of the different results as well as my opinion on what are the currently best Mage Garrison in the game for many of the players who do play Mage and do not necessarily have a lot of other garrison for your cities. Now, in any scenario, you should never try and get swarmed or rallied if you can, but today being the last day of the season, it means that it doesn't matter as much, but you will lose your troops with the KVK if you do, so it's not something that I would recommend to anyone. Now, that being said, let's go right into the results to see the different combinations. So I tried Tohar with Yun Ming as secondary, I tried Gromara with Tohar, I tried Tohar with Gromara the other way around, and I tried Gromara with Yun Ming as secondary. I have a few more here that I did at first that I saved, so just so we can compare, and then I'll go over everything that I was using on all of these different things, so different pets, artifacts, even though I use a lot of the same. So here, if we look, obviously, as the video keeps going, my legions will go down. I did try to heal and keep around 100 million power as long as possible, but I just have so many elixir that I could use. Now we will see that the ratio is going to be pretty good in all scenarios because a swarm is never good. You're always going to be less troop than the city you're attacking. But just comparing here, Gromara as primary with Yun Ming as secondary, there is really good AoE. Gromara's talent tree is also garrison, of course, and it does compare pretty well. But so if you look at the ratio, it's basically the power loss is like a 1-to-2 ratio. Now, obviously, the death is really bad for him. You always take a lot of death when you're swarming. But trying to look at the power loss as a baseline on what is the ratio you're doing damage and how well you're doing. So you can see it's, here it's a 1-to-2 almost. Here it's a little bit worse than 1-to-2. But in the death, it's a 1-to-4. And then here it's a 1-to-5 plus. So, and there's no difference between those two, other than the fact that I had a bit less troops as the swarms went along. But he also did use a lot of archers and eventually also used some cav. Now this one is a full archer, and this one is also a full archer, as you can see. So it obviously has one tank that's taking most of the damage, but they're all taking insane amount of damage no matter what. So this combo did well and will always do well, being the two new mages, even though Yun Ming is not a garrison hero, but it is, in my opinion, really not an anti-swarm combo. But I believe this is the best combo for garrisoning against rallies, but I didn't get rally this time, so I'll talk about my opinion on that later. Comparing now to the other scenario, which was Tohar Yun Ming, where I have a good ratio, a little bit better than 1-to-2, as you can see here, and I did this one twice. So in this scenario, I was using the exact same everything, so I put the pet and the artifact, which is my level 5 exemplar here, and of course you can see that he is completely maxed out. He is the well, everything is exemplar maxed. The pet is pretty damn good too. So you can see that it is very much the top end of what you can get swarmed by. So here you really see the extent of my test, where I tried to get swarmed as many times as I could, and you can see some of them he swarmed quite many times. So I tried to test them all 3 times, and then I kept with this one because I believe this is the best combo you can have. So here again we have Tohar with Yun Ming as secondary, so he did a few swarms here. And the ratio on this one, not the best, but the ratio here, it's almost a 1-to-3, and here it's a 1-to-2. So I would say in general, it seems like with Yun Ming in the picture, you're often going to be in 1-to-2. This one here, a little bit worse than 1-to-2. Here, pretty close. And here, again, pretty much worse. If you look at the overall, it's not 1-to-2 at all. Here, it's like a 1-to-1.5, which is still very good. Like, you're still very positive, as you can see. The death wise is always positive, but in my opinion, Yun Ming, while he is one of the, or basically the best mage hero in the game right now with Gromara primary, it is very good. But when you're talking about swarm, Tohar is just so much better. And the reason for Tohar being so much better, if we look here, is really the second skill. This one is insane. So Gromara's second skill does AoE damage, but it's every 10 seconds. It's good, but it's very, very slow, especially during a swarm. you maybe have it once or twice, as opposed to Tohar, who does it every time he casts his Conduit, which is very often, as it has a cooldown of 4 seconds. And it is also triggered by someone having a rage kill. So when you have someone like Gromara as his pairing, the rage kill resets this cooldown. So this is casting all the time, and it's doing insane amount of AoE. So it is really just a very, very powerful AoE damage, and Tohar is ultimately, I think, the best anti-swarm hero in this game currently, and does insane amount of AoE, but also really high range, so even people who are reinforcing or marching near your city will get demolished by this. So this is really something that I already knew, but Tohar is really the god of anti-swarm, in my opinion. Now, the comparison here really is just, are you going to do Gromara Tohar or Tohar Gromara? I will look at the talents that I have on these a little bit, but here you can see after I would say 12 different swarms with 5 troops every time, mostly all archers. I do believe he had a mage here and there, and he did eventually also use a cav here and there, but in general it's mostly archers with 1 tank. And you can see that the ratio is 1 to 2, a little bit better than 1 to 2, but the amount of death ratio is insane, and that's because the AoE of Tohar is just killing everybody in an AoE. Meanwhile, you're only really getting attacked by less troops, less damage, because everybody's getting lower yellow HP, red HP, so they do less damage to you. It just trades so well. If we compare it to this one, which is Gromara Primary, the ratio is a little bit close, 1 to 2. Again, this one is much higher than 1 to 2, like, I mean, not that much, but a little bit, as opposed to this one, it's a bit closer, but they're both very similar. I mean, they're the same combo, just depending on who you put first. It really just changes the talent, and my talents were very similar. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious here from my understanding that if you are going to make an anti-swarm and your city has a lot of mages, you are going to want to have Tohar and Gromara. They are the pairing. The reason they work so well is because they're both kind of anti-swarm, and it's just like what I said. Basically, you want to pair Tohar with someone who has a rage kill. I've seen people pair Tohar with Yun Ming, and it does work really well for sure, but not that well, because you're not getting this reset, basically the cooldown ending after a rage kill. So Gromara is perfect with Yun Ming and with Tohar, but I don't think Tohar and Yun Ming together are it. I just don't think so. While the artifact itself is very, very powerful and works even better with Yun Ming, but this is basically triggered every time you do some magic damage, and Yun Ming is the only one who can fully trigger it. But if you're being swarmed, Tohar is doing so much magic damage that actually I believe this is fully triggered as well. So this is something to keep in mind here for the artifact, especially when we're talking about swarm again. And then yeah, Tohar, Gromara also have this 25% bonus damage up all the time because of the fact that Tohar has no rage kill. Then you have this 15. So Gromara is giving 40% skill damage. Tohar himself has a 30%. So it's like a 70% skill damage boost. As well as all these stats that are being cast. And then Tohar again wants someone who casts a rage kill. So you can see this one though, I did use my Sapphire, and then I used my Sapphire a few times. I also used the Shadow, I believe, here, right here. Yeah, so the Shadow is here. I just tried it once. I don't think it's very good, but there really isn't a huge difference. I mean, my troops were also going lower and lower, right? Like I'm at 4 million units here, and I didn't have that many people reinforcing me either. So the ratios and the trade-offs are going to be worse. If you look at the first one, it's way more than 1 to 2. It's almost a 1 to 3 ratio when I am at 5.5 million troop. And then as it goes lower and lower, my ratio is getting worse. But I'm still always trading 1 to 2, if not better. Here it's even better for some reason. Here it's like 1 to 3 basically. And he's pulling off before he's dead, so he doesn't take as many injuries, I'm guessing. But it doesn't really matter what they do. Tohar's AoE just demolishes everyone. And then by the end, the ratio is a little bit worse than 1 to 2. Though it's still very close, even though I'm still at 3 million. So I have almost half the amount of troops I had at the beginning. And I'm still trading a hugely positive ratio. So it really is just an amazing combo, as you can see. Of course, people aren't going to swarm you the way this guy did. And I'm very appreciative to him for doing it, even though I didn't ask him to. But thank you. He did get a lot of deads and stuff, but at the end of the season you're going to be able to buy it all back, so it really doesn't matter. But I mean, this was really just something that I was really interested in doing to test out everything. So you can see all the reports here. There is a ton of interesting data. Now, speaking of rally, this is going to be kind of my opinion on this as well. If you are going to be anti-swarm, I would do Tohar Gromara. That is my go-to. I would go for Tohar Gromara all the time. If you're going to get rallied, I would go for Gromara Yun Ming, and I would do the exact same setup that I had here, which is Gromara with the artifact of Yun Ming and with the Flaming Manticore, because Yun Ming triggers him perfectly. So in my perfect world, this is the ultimate anti-rally for a Mage Garrison. Now, I haven't tested it fully. I've only tested it once before, but I've seen a few other players get rallied with this, and they trade very well, even against this Kuma Lei Quan Kuma combo. Even with someone who has it max, it trades very, very well. You will do the talent a little bit differently, but you are going to bet basically the best of both worlds, with Gromara having a huge nuke, a lot of skill damage being offered. This is not very good. I really hate that skill. Actually, I think Gromara's skill is terrible compared to Tohar's. But everything else he does here, ignore enemy attack, is really good because you're ignoring the enemy attack of the rally. So very, very powerful anti-rally thing. Defense is really good for being rallied. And then this magic attack basically is up all the time. So it's 25% magic attack. So obviously it's a very, very powerful hero for getting rallied. And Yun Ming will trigger the passive of the Defiance of Heaven here, or this artifact, meaning that there will be a lot of this damage, 120 every 2 seconds, which he does trigger, and it's a very high amount of damage factor to be casted every 2 seconds. It's basically 60 damage per second, which is very high if you think about it. It takes 10 seconds for this to cast, so it's basically like a third of a rage kill for free all the time, passively, no matter what. On top of Yun Ming himself being the god of magic damage, this will obviously do better if you have a lot of mages in your city. Even though there is the talent you can take that negates a little bit of that, but they buff a lot of mage stuff, so you do need to have a mage heavy city. But if you are like me, a player, I have about 4 million mages in my city, this is the setup for a Mage Garrison. This is what you want. This is what will do best for you against a full rally, in my opinion. Now, if you did Gromara with Tohar, or Tohar Gromara, would still work. But Tohar's biggest strength right now, I think, is the amount of AoE he does. So, I mean, these are the two options if you're going to get rallied. And then if you're getting swarmed, this is the option, Tohar Gromara. Now, we'll look at the talents quickly. So, this is what I'm using on my Gromara. So, obviously, it's a full Garrison talent. And I went, it's a pretty standard build. Fair Defense is the one where it's different. If you're getting swarmed, Fair Defense, I think, is very good. It's the best case scenario. He makes it so that all the unit attributes, so using archers against mage, there is no bonuses, so that's one of the reasons why I traded, I think, so well. Even though my city is full of mages, his archers were not really doing more damage or bonus damage. It could be less good if you're getting rallied by infantry, because I mean, mages are better against infantry. In this case, also, if you're getting rallied, Thorn Barrier, I think, is better. You're inflicting a very large debuff of attack and defense to the enemy, and now inflicting a debuff to armies swarming, not very powerful, because they're getting yellow HP so quickly. These debuffs have a lot less effect, but this Fair Defense is something you should have, especially the weaker your account is or the weaker your city is. My city is only like 100 million power right now, so I mean, it's definitely not a very strong city against the enemy, who is a 200+ million player. So Fair Defense just makes it much more on the same level for buffs and for unit troops. Other than that, skill damage is obviously amazing, and then because I have Gromara, I do want the rage, get additional rage stuff, especially with Tohar, as we talked about earlier. It does offer a lot of extra skill cast, and then Tohar does his AoE and all that. So, and then everything else, you're just taking points where you can. Might not be the best tree. I mean, I went heavy in the damage. You can go on less damage here from normal attack, but against swarm, normal attack is also necessarily not it, but it is really against an infantry rally, so you could go for that more against rally. And the last skill here is this one, Formidable. I think that's pretty much what everybody takes. I mean, this is not bad, but this is just better. You reduce the damage you take, which is really high from rallies. So this is what I'm using on my Gromara. And from what I can gather, this is one of the go-to kind of builds for most Garrison against rallies and swarm. Now, if we look at Tohar, it's a little bit different. The major difference is that I didn't go for the 2 rage generation skills because first, I wanted to test if I was doing Tohar Yun Ming. There is absolutely no benefits to rage skill, so there is no rage skill. So these would be completely wasted. And now with Gromara, it's still good. So it's not necessarily that this should be removed, because if you're doing Tohar Gromara, it would be very good. But as you saw from the results, even though I didn't have this, I still cooked pretty heavily all the rallies and all the swarms. So I mean, it was really, really strong without this. And then instead, I went for more HP here, and I take this one that gives me a less normal attack damage. So all in all, I mean, less regeneration, but a lot more stats. Everything else is pretty much the same. So these are the things to consider when you're getting, a Mage Garrison. There could be better trees than that. There's a lot of little things you can play around with, but in general, there's not a lot of other stuff here that I would care about. If you are going to get for more normal attack damage, could be against rallies, you're doing high amount of normal attack damage, but with mages, not really. So for me as a mage, I thought these were the best trees. And you saw from my report that the talents never changed. So it was really just Tohar without these rage and more stats, or Gromara with these rage and less stat. There is no other difference. And I mean, from my initial testing, I think I can say that Tohar Gromara was ahead by a little bit and was by far the best garrison that I had against the Swarm. Now, last thing I want to talk about is alternative. As I mentioned a bit earlier, I do believe Flaming Manticore is going to be one of the biggest single target damage pet you can have. So against rallies, when you have it 3 stars, I think it's going to be the king. People are obviously looking at the damage here, and it doesn't look that impressive all the time. But the second skill here, the Fire Cage, that gives you, like, as you can see, basically 70% direct damage buff to this one. And then this one, which I still have at 1 star, but gives your effective burning mark. This is basically 5% right now, a little bit more than 5%. And then you can see basically 5.3. This could go probably as high as 10%. And that's per stack, 7 stack. We're adding another almost 100% damage here because it's 3 plus 7, and it will eventually be 3 plus 10-ish. So we're talking about 100% damage plus 70% with a pretty high damage ratio. I obviously have almost perfect intelligence, so it helps. But it's going to be very, very high single target burst damage. And the way to max this skill is by having someone like Yun Ming or like Tohar doing a lot of damage, skill damage, AoE, many times being repeated over and over every second, every 2 seconds. This can be triggered twice a second. So Tohar and Yun are perfect for this. So as long as you have one of the two, this pet will cook, in my opinion. And of course, then you have follow-up and all these things. Now, the big difference that I'm using compared to many guides is Light's Guidance. I believe Light's Guidance is very good. It will maybe not be here forever. When I have 8 slots and stuff, I might replace it by the skill damage one and the better follow-up. But Light Guidance giving 5% crit to a hero like Yun Ming, who casts so many skills damage, like so many effect of damage, and Tohar too in this case. You're getting this value of the crit plus the skill tree damage when you're using Yun Ming. You're getting a lot of value. Crit is really powerful. It does a lot of damage. Even if you crit 1 every 10 skill, but that crit does 150% or more damage if you have the skill tree talent. You're adding something like 4 or 5% total damage to your damage, and sometimes even more than that. So something to think about. Like, it's basically like a percentage buff damage to your hero, not just the crit itself. So I mean, it's a very mathematically complex equation, but I do believe this is really good. And the pet skill building guides don't value this because it's not calculatable easily. So when you're putting this into a builder, it doesn't show anything. So you have no idea how good it actually is. And I think it's much better than people think. So just something to keep in mind on that one. Now, if you're going to get rallied, the Shadow Faedric is going to be very good. It also has a very high damage, but mostly the damage bonus is what you care about. You're giving yourself a 5-second, almost 20% damage bonus to the enemy. So it's very, very high when you're getting rallied. You have millions of troops fighting at once. So this only gets better the more troops you have, because your white number and your skill damage numbers are higher than ever before. So it's something that you should consider if you're getting rallied. I think the Shadow Faedric would be very, very, very good. I'm not sure if you have Yun Ming in your garrison, the Flame Manticore, if he was 3-star, everything. I would probably still choose it first, but it's something to keep in mind. I think the Shadow Faedric, if you have a good one, will do very, very good against rally, but really not good against Swarm. The Sapphire is obviously one of the best pets in the game. It's really good because it has AoE. If you're getting Swarm, you definitely will get some value out of this, but it might be impacted by the facing of who's tanking, which sucks. And then also, depending on if you're getting rallied or Swarm. If you're getting rallied, this is useless. It really does not a lot of damage to only one target. So I would rather have the other skill. But if you're getting Swarmed, this could prove to be very good for sure. But I mean, I'm not sure if it would be better than the Flame Manticore when you're using someone like Yun Ming. Lastly, the Seraphic. This one, very powerful pet as well. It is going to get better as you get buffs or debuff, which is something Yun does really well. But Gromara also does, but not as well as Yun Gromara together for sure. So if you are doing a garrison with Gromara and Young as your garrison, which I said is the best against a rally, this will be very good. If you have a good one, this pet will cook. It's really good. It does heal you, and it does do more damage per stack, so you're getting a lot of stacks. So I mean, mine is really not built. It's not my favorite pet in the world. Healing is good, but healing also makes you take more severely wounded. It fills your hospital and take a bit more dead because you keep healing more troops, so your ratio of percentage of troops getting killed is higher, but it also makes you stronger and do more damage, so it's not bad. But from my PTSD from Rise of Kingdom, the more healing you had, the more you can get zeroed quickly, and I don't like that. Now in this game it's a little bit different, and it's still good, the healing, but you don't really gain anything from the healing. I would prefer to just max damage the enemy. So in a swarm scenario, Seraphic is definitely not it, because you want to kill the enemy quickly to reduce the damage you take. But if you're getting rallied and the rally is getting filled, this could become really good as a healing source and as a damage source, because you're getting buff, but the damage is very weak compared to what you're going to get. I mean, like, as you can see right now, even if I got 6 stack, that would be 30% damage. That's less than 200 damage plus 30%. I mean, this one at 2-star is doing already double that, and that's without the 100 damage here. So there's such a big boost to this damage. So I mean, Seraphic is just not it for damage, but like, you're getting healed. So I mean, it's something to keep in mind there. If you have it built really well, it will do well. It's just not my favorite pet. Now, the last thing to talk about is the artifact. Of course, if Yun Ming is anywhere near garrison, or if you're getting swarmed and Tohar is AoEing, even if you're getting rallied and Tohar is AoEing, Dragon's Fate is it. I mean, it's the new artifact. The power creep happens. It's the best artifact in the game for mages. It's better than the Phoenix Eye, because the Phoenix Eye has less damage and doesn't have a passive at all. So, I mean, it's obviously amazing. If you have a level 1 non-exemplar, you might look around somewhere else. But Yun Ming in your garrison, Tohar in your garrison, you are going to be triggering this a lot. Every time you do magic damage, it will trigger the next normal attack, basically. So Tohar and Young both triggers this almost 100%. Tohar just needs to AoE to do so, but otherwise when he's casting his skill, it's also triggering every second. So just things to keep in mind. I mean, if you have any of these two, which I believe you should have if you're getting garrisoned, if you're getting rallied or swarmed, this is it. I mean, there's no question about it. One thing to really think about when you're going to be thinking about garrison and stuff is if you have something exemplar and high level, like level 5. So at level 5, I'm taking 7.5 less damage and I'm doing 7.5 more damage. This in itself is a huge boost. If I didn't have this, I have the 5/5 on the Phoenix Eye. So just that alone would be worth it, because I would be getting, this is a 10% damage buff. Like, you're taking less damage and doing more damage. And then the exemplar effect adds more, right? So like in this case, it's 12.5 damage and then 12.5 damage taken less, right? So it's a huge amount of buff, and this is really what you're going to be looking at for garrisoning. You're looking at raw stats because you're buffing millions of troops at once. So even in this case, the Infernal Flame, just with the stats, you ignore the right side almost completely, but you just have this, and it's kind of almost worth it. So it really just depends on what you have that's best. Like, I wouldn't use a Thunder Elegy that has 4.5, even though the passive is a bit better if you have Thunderlin. Just because this one Phoenix Eye has more stats, and I would use that instead. So hopefully in the future I'll also be able to test some rallies, but I still believe that you would cook the most with this Gromara Yun Ming combo against rallies. So something to be tested. Let me know what you think, if any of you mage players have gotten rallied in the past, and what talents and everything you use, if it's different. I'm obviously not a custom player to getting rallied or swarmed. This is the first time in my Call of Dragon life, basically. It's never happened to me before, and it was obviously on purpose, but it wasn't planned. So I'm glad it happened, and it is going to be very good to have an option for mage players to not get demolished by swarms and stuff if you leave your city defenseless, or if you're in the wrong spot, wrong time. But you should really just always be on correct territory so this doesn't happen to you at all times. One thing to remember though is that garrison, when you come in your city here, the pet and the artifact are never set up properly, because you're never going to use these heroes really as primary. So my Yun Ming has this every time I do a primary. If you go outside of the city and you do deploy and you click a button, like the Dragon's Fate, the Flame Manticore goes on Yun Ming, and then it's out of my city. So if you are going to get swarmed or rallied, make sure that whoever is your primary in your city, you come here and you do this, and you add the artifact and you add the pet, and then you can get rallied. You can also do this in the middle of happening if you're getting rallied or if you're getting swarmed. you must do this as soon as possible because it will make a huge difference and you're losing on the buff without having it. So it's annoying, and I wish that there was a setup where when your city garrison is activated, it saves the artifact and the pet and puts it on if it's in the city. Right now it doesn't, and that's something that many people get caught without this, so it's a very big pro tip. Do not get caught without this or you will get demolished. Because this is a huge amount of buff and the pet is a huge amount of damage. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.